One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
Is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
What's up, everybody? Getting ready for another Trump rally. Hope you guys are doing fine. We're down here in not so sunny South Florida. Once again, we've got the rain going on down here. So I hope I make it through this entire broadcast. I hope everything goes fine between the rain and the thunder and the lightning and my allergies. I'm really going to try and make it through here and give you guys a good show. Got my hot tea. Courtesy of the wife, so I think that's going to get me through the next, I don't know, about 2 hours or so. I'm looking down at the feed, and it looks like Don Jr.'s talking. So let's go ahead and just, I hadn't planned on showing any of the rally yet, but let's go ahead and see what Don Jr. has to say.
Speak! I'm not even using a teleprompter. He can't even do that right. Right? The doctor that's telling us that Joe Biden's fine is also a business partner with the Biden family. Think about that for a second.
That came out in news.
And of course, you know, again, if we had actual journalists left in this country, people would talk about these things. They would bring up the point. They would drive home that point. If it was Donald Trump, you're damn right they would be talking about it, rightfully so.
Yep.
If I was Hunter Biden, if that was my laptop, I'd be at Gitmo. And my father would have been the person that sent me there.
Hey, we all need a little kick in the ass sometime in our life, okay? Hunter needed it about 50 years ago, but never got it. I'm much cuter, thank you. I like you, baby. So guys, the reality is this. You've seen it. You've seen the attacks. You've seen the unequal administration of justice in our country.
His voice
you see
sounds
the way
worse
they
than
treat
mine.
good, hardworking Americans. You see the America Last policies that have failed us and have enriched our enemies and have emboldened our enemies, because that's the reality. Democrat policy and the weakness they exude on a world stage is why we are seeing the chaos and turmoil that we see across the world. It's
Absolutely.
the nature of predation. It's a story as old as time. Predators prey on the weak. And when America is weak, when they're leading from behind, when they have an incompetent on the world stage, enemies will act.
Absolutely.
The wars will go away the second my father is elected. By the way, they'll get to the table the second November 5th happened, even before he takes into office, because they realize he'll drive a harder bargain than the morons that would rather, have trans admirals than actually win wars. Right? I mean, have you seen some of this stuff? They're shocked. We can't recruit anyone for the military. I wonder why. Can't quite figure it out. Good, patriotic, hardworking Americans don't want to go die for the transvestite that was given an admiralship simply because they were transvestites, right? I mean, it's not rocket science. It wasn't like they were the greatest soldiers in the world. They were just, they checked a couple more boxes. So, guys, between now and November 5th, there can be no letting off the gas. You must speak to your friends. I'm not so worried about Florida. Feels pretty good. But we still got to win the congressional seat and all the down ticket races. But each and every one of you, you need to call your friends across the country. You need to speak to them. You have to make sure they understand what is happening. You see it around the world. This was an article I read today because it was just so disgusting to me as a father of 5 young children. Here's the article from the Daily Mail. Danish 17-year-old girl who used pepper spray to fight off a rapist near migrant asylum center. Sure, had no correlation there at all. Was told she will be prosecuted for carrying a weapon. So a literal victim of rape is going to be prosecuted for defending herself. That is the liberal mindset. That is what Democrat policy will ultimately be in that country. You see them refusing to prosecute crimes here.
Yep.
Only Americans, only patriots, only those people get prosecuted. If you're a criminal element, as long as you'll reliably vote Democrat, you have free reign. We have to speak to our friends. We have to get them engaged. We have to get them involved. And we have to take our country back because it's worth it. The American dream is worth it. Our freedoms and our liberties are worth it. And our children are sure as hell worth it. And we have to fight for them across the board. So God bless you all, Miami. Thank you for your support. Thank you for fighting like you do. I love you guys. And I promise you, as long as we're here, we will fight tooth and nail to save everything you all stand for. You're the best. God bless Miami.
And that was Don Jr., the closing remarks that we caught from him. He's absolutely right. They are letting criminals do what they want, it seems, and they're going after, absolutely going after normies, people who actually pay their bills. I don't know if you guys have been following along what's been going on in France, but Marine Le Pen was all set to take over in France. And what ended up happening, they cheated somehow, and they basically took over, and now they're going to try and throw her in jail the same way they did with Trump. These people are ruthless. Even though it may look like a landslide, don't give up an inch. Don't at all take your foot off the gas. Make sure everybody knows to get out there and vote. It's going to be something that we have to do. Drag people, whatever, get them to vote. You have to, as Trump has said many times, make it too big to rig. Absolutely make it too big to rig. So I'm not sure if you guys saw my video today, but I did put up a video earlier today about the end of days, that I believe that we're seeing the end of days of the Biden presidency. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and take a look at it after the rally. Go ahead and take a look at it, because she got, and I say she, Karine Jean-Pierre got absolutely shredded by the press yesterday. She had no comeback, none whatsoever. It was incredibly almost a masterpiece by the press that finally decided after 3.5 years to friggin' wake up. They woke up, they see what's happening. Now, they played stupid. They played possum with us for 3.5 years, ignored everything that all of us had seen and heard, and now they fought back. They're coming for her in a big way. So before Trump comes on up, I got a special video for you guys today. I put this video today, and however your day's been going, whether it's good or bad, just realize your day isn't going as bad as the Democrats up in Washington. I mean, it's basically a complete crap show up there, and they're trying to keep up a good front, you know, in terms of being able to talk about Joe's going to be doing great. Nah, it ain't working, and they are going through their own civil war at this point. But don't take it for granted. So we're going to listen to this video as we wait for Trump to come up. Let me see if I can make sure I put this on correctly. And let's go with this. You guys ready? Let's go.
You all on the same page?
No.
What do you mean you're not on the same page?
Not even in the same book.
So somebody asked this guy, this is this guy Cohen. I believe he's out of Tennessee. Are you guys all on the same page? And he says, no, we're not even on the same book. That's how bad it is. Not even on the same book.
For President Biden, what's the outcome of that meeting?
One of the things the White House seems to be latched onto that is demonstrably false is that this isn't a voter problem. This is a massive voter problem. 75% of all voters think he's too old. And I agree that this is a referendum on Donald Trump because he is an existential threat to the American way of life.
They still want to say that. An existential threat to the American way of life. At some point, the normies have to wake up and go, what the hell is the threat? He wants to do things that help ordinary Americans. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. I got an urgent pop-up here. This thing is something you guys are going to want to see. Let me see which button do I... Boom. That one. Nikki Haley, just as of about an hour ago, released all of her delegates that she won during the primaries and told her delegates to get behind Trump. That is huge news. Absolutely huge news. Nikki Haley has now, 12th hour, but she has finally endorsed Donald Trump. So all of the Kingsmen are coming together, and now the Republicans are absolutely unified. No more excuses, nothing else to worry about. He is the nominee. He is going to be, hopefully, president in January of 2025. Long way to go. Anything can happen. These people are nuts. As you are hearing, they're calling him an existential threat. Just using that word existential as much as they possibly can.
But this isn't something that the media cooked up. This is something that the media largely ignored for years as voters, raised their hand and said, ooh, I'm worried about this thing.
Too late.
Hey, I don't predict things.
I love Jim Carville. So Jim Carville here, is basically going to really tell it like it is about Joe Biden. And I kind of believe him here.
I'm just telling you, it's inevitable. He will come to the conclusion. People will get the message to him. He will understand. His family will understand. They'll pray on it and they'll make the right decision. I don't have any doubt about it. But while we dilly-dallying around here, somebody's got to think of where we go from here. And that's what I'm trying to say in the time.
Listen, I think you're right. I think your party went down the wrong road and they went a long way down it. And now they got to figure out a new course. Do you think Clinton and Obama would agree with your idea in the New York Times today?
What does Cuomo mean, your party? You're part of that same party. We know. We saw him on CNN. He is part of that same party. And now he's trying to distance himself from it. That's how much it stinks around Dementia Joe.
For them to
I
drive a town hall,
I have no idea.
a series of town halls?
Better to ask forgiveness and permission. I just throw an idea out there. All right, didn't everybody, Nick? I'm just trying to stimulate what we're doing right now, to have a conversation about the future, and a future without a criminal president and a criminal Supreme Court. We have a criminal Supreme Court now. We had a criminal president. We might have one back. I want to stop that.
What are they going to do when all these things get overturned? I'm pretty sure by November, the charges from Jack Smith are going to get dismissed. And it's likely with what the House did today, when they've called for basically the appellate court in New York to overturn Trump's conviction, all of their talking points will be over, absolutely over.
If the best I can.
Just for the people at home, James wrote a piece today, you can read it in the Times, where he says Obama and Clinton hold a series of town halls and they pick who gets to participate and vet the ideas in the different regions of the country so that by the time you're into the convention, everybody's seen everybody and you can have a good vetting process and come out.
So they just want to change the rules. You know, the people who want to save democracy all of a sudden want to change democracy. These people, what was it, 20 million primary voters voted for Dementia Joe. He was their pick. Now they're like, wait a second, we want a mulligan. We're going to do it over again. We're going to have Clinton and Obama hold these town hall meetings and let all these different people that we think should be running go ahead and basically pitch to the public, to the Democrat voter, and we'll find out which one people actually want. You already know which one people want. It's your problem that you let Dementia Joe go this far. We told you. Every single person probably watching this video right now, you knew. Your friends knew. We saw it. You told us it was cheap fakes, but now look at you. Now you want to just change the democracy that you said you want to save.
With a new ticket. If you had to pick a ticket today, James Carville, who is it?
It's not up to me to pick a ticket. It's up for the Democratic delegates. I'm being frank here. But that's not the question. The question is, we're up against the wall. The Democratic Party is, the United States of America is up against the wall.
Not really. No, I don't feel like we're up against the wall at all. I think the Democratic Party is definitely against the wall. I think they're about to be basically eviscerated if things go the way they do and if they don't cheat. It's amazing to me that we have to seriously look at a opposing political party as having not just the ability but the desire to cheat. That's a sad state of affairs. Talk about ending democracy. Talk about an existential threat. Y'all are just willing to cheat. You really don't care. Drives me nuts.
I made clear publicly the day after the debate that I support President Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket. My position has not changed.
But that's Biden and the Democratic ticket. Do you support Biden on the ticket or just Biden and whatever the ticket is?
Same answer.
Okay.
We have a great president. He has a great president working.
Well, I can't believe they want to talk to Nancy. I mean, she's one to be talking. I mean, she's got 1 foot herself into the dementia pool.
With us, great record of achievement, and I'm hopeful that he will be the next president of the United States.
I had spoken to the president over the weekend. I have spoken with him.
Why doesn't this girl get a haircut if she doesn't like the way her hair feels on her face? I am sick of her always moving. I'm sick of her anyway, but always moving her hair around.
Extensively. He made clear then, and he has made clear since, that he is in this race. The matter is closed. He had reiterated that this morning.
I guess she hasn't talked to James Carville.
He has reiterated that to the public. Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him.
I really do believe that the more members of our caucus who speak directly to him, the more confident they will feel. So I've encouraged the White House to make sure that the president does as much outreach as possible, or not the White House, but the campaign, that the president does as much research.
Not so much the president, but the campaign. We don't want Joe out there. No, we can't have that. We just have Jill go out and talk. You know, the campaign.
Outreach is possible.
All right, listen, I'm not here to give advice to my colleagues. They all have independent districts and things that they feel like they have to do. I do think that we should continue to have whatever conversations we need to have with our constituents, with our colleagues. We should have them in private. You know they're not having this conversation because if they did, they would know the answer.
when you're upwards of 75% of the American people think this guy is gonzo, then that crosses the party line. You have, if it's 75+%, and it's probably going to grow, then you already know what your constituents actually feel.
Yeah, it's actually one of those rare moments where I do agree with the New York Times editorial page. I think there's a difference between asking whether the president will be the candidate. I think he probably will, Joe and Mika, if he decides to hang tough. Should he be the candidate is obviously a different question. I think a couple of reasons not. One is the structural moment. This is a bad time for incumbents.
Can you believe that it's simply because of him failing at the debate in front of 50 million people that now they're all talking about, hey, we need to get rid of this guy? So you're telling me a week ago, because as anybody knows, dementia just didn't start last Thursday. It wasn't something that you're surprised by. It's not that he got into a car accident last Thursday. It's not like a brick fell on his head last Thursday. He just showed the signs that all of you have been seeing and hearing, and unfortunately he did it in front of 50 million people. And now you're acting like, oh my God, we didn't know. This is horrible. Not sure. Why weren't you having these same discussions last Wednesday?
Look what happened in South Africa, India, France, and Britain. 4 big elections. And in each case, there's an anti-incumbent mood. Joe Biden has the burden of incumbency. And if you see Donald Trump as the threat many of us do, there's a big strike against him. Second of all,
they never define what this existential threat really is, other than maybe to their grifting wallets themselves.
Look at this morning. If the whole idea is to make Trump the issue, his past record as president, his congenital lying, his own physical and mental fitness for the job, I think it's going to be extremely hard for Joe Biden to press that case. As you said, any minor slip, any imperfection.
See, that's what they're going to try and do now. Watch the media make the turn. The media is now going to try and put the focus on Trump. As I said in one of my videos just recently, I was telling you that they started saying over and over, where's Trump? Trump's not nowhere to be found. He's hiding. Is he sick? Not understanding, actually they probably did understand, they were just gaslighting again, that there was no reason for Trump to do anything. He's letting you guys, your ship sink on its own. You know that. They were just hoping there were some people who didn't know that, but the polls are saying otherwise.
Again, Joe Biden's going to be the issue. So if the whole idea is to make this a race about Trump, which I think is necessary if Trump is to be defeated, I do not think Joe Biden is the person to accomplish that. Many of the other potential Democrats would be better placed.
I would love if they have another debate. That's still doubtful. I don't know if Trump needs to have it. But if they have another debate, Trump should just say, do you remember what you said at the last one? And basically bring up the conversation and let Joe basically implode on stage, because there's no way he's going to remember what he previously said.
Also, let's be honest here. I just don't see how a person is 86, 4.5 years from now, Joe Biden would be 86 going into the last 3 months of his presidency. I'm just hard pressed to see how he would be in a position to do the job. This is not an anti-Joe Biden rant. I've respected him. I've been friends with him for 50 years. I think he's done a good job as president. To me, the question is he the best candidate to beat Donald Trump? I would say not.
Right. Is he the best candidate to beat Donald Trump? Now you're asking that question? Again, these people are obtuse. They have to realize the audience is looking at this and going, last Wednesday, Joe Biden was the best thing since sliced bread. You kept saying how he's just going to beat Trump. He's going to beat him like a drum. He's the best thing for this country. And literally 8, 9, 10 days later, you're trying to convince everybody that we might need to make a shift. Why? Why do you need to make a shift? What happened on Thursday besides the failure of the debate? The only thing that happened at that debate was that the American people saw it. You are all exposed as complete frauds.
Position where he could serve effectively for 4 more years, I would say probably not. And Mika, the argument that somehow the people have spoken, let's be real about the campaign. There was tremendous pressure from the White House pressuring other Democrats not to get in the race. And the whole argument was that will weaken Joe Biden against Donald Trump.
Can you believe they're saying this? Now they're critiquing the campaign and the primaries that the Democrats won as if they didn't know and they didn't push it. They wouldn't let RFK run as a Democrat. They wouldn't let RFK get on the debate stage. They fought tooth and nail to make sure there were no competitors against him. Nope, nobody can run against Joe. And now, in addition to everything else, now they're questioning the entire process that they themselves promoted.
And a lot of people took that to heart. And I don't think now you can use the argument that other people didn't get in the race to say people had their chance and Joe Biden's the nominee. I just don't think that's fair. I think that a lot of Democrats would have gotten into the race, but were worried about that they would somehow look disloyal to weaken the Democratic frontrunner.
Wow.
Well, I never said that. I just...
I don't want us to continue to focus on President Biden.
I don't want us to keep focusing on Biden. No, we can't keep focusing on Biden. What? The guy basically pooped himself on national TV, and you're now telling the audience, don't look over here. We need to look over here at Trump, not this vegetable that we're running for a president. You need to look over here. Take the focus off of Biden. No, the focus on both sides needs to be on Biden. Oops, wrong button.
Seen his accomplishments.
Joe interview yesterday, but can the American people be sure President Biden won't have more mental lapses like what we saw at the debate?
Smart question. Now, this guy works for the DNC. He's throwing a question that you know the answer to, any of you who have had relatives or family members, or that's both, that have had dementia and or Parkinson's. There's no cure. There's no coming back. You're not going to get better. It's not a broken leg that heals. It's all downside. And to me, it's just amazing that these people are trying to still think as though that's not the case, that he's going to be okay. It's July. That's why I think he's going to be out, because there is no getting better here.
Well, it was a bad debate performance. And it's the same thing that happened to President Obama. He had a bad debate performance going into his reelection, and it's been consistent with other presidents also. So I would want...
It wasn't the performance that was critiqued. It was the lack of ability to perform. Obama is an orator. He could speak. He had a bad game, but he could play the game. He could get better. This guy can't get better, and yet they're still trying to talk to you about it being one bad night, which is completely hogwash.
Again, look at his accomplishments, what he's been able to do as president.
I am going to work as hard as I can for him. I'm going to go to several states.
Speaking of dementia,
I believe that he deserves our support. That's all I can speak about is me.
Do you think he can actually win?
Biden is going to win. The team Biden-Harris is going to win.
Do you think that Joe Biden should get a cognitive exam?
Yeah.
Yes. 100% yes.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes, absolutely.
I think everyone should have one.
What makes you say that?
Because it just seems like he's not there.
I don't feel
like he's just like mentioned there.
After having grandparents that suffered from things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, you kind of know the signs. Not capable.
Do you think that he should step down?
Yes. I think he should step down in his own will.
Do you think that we should invoke the 25th Amendment? He should step down?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I don't feel safe.
He's old enough.
Biden, but the fact of the matter is, you look at the national polling, the generic congressional ballot choice for U.S. House. Look at this. CNN poll, +2 Republican. Wall Street Journal poll, +3 Republican. Monmouth University poll, +3 Republican. Yeah, Joe Biden may be in slightly worse shape in these particular polls, but the fact is when Biden's down 4, 5, 6 points in these polls, you can only run so far ahead of Joe Biden. At this particular point, at least in the race for the House, it does seem like Republicans are ahead because Donald Trump is so far ahead.
What's the Senate landscape?
Yeah, what's the Senate landscape? I mean, take a look here. GOP needs just a gain of 1 for control if Trump wins. And their path is extremely clear because their best chance for a pickup opportunity is in West Virginia. That's a very likely GOP win with Joe Manchin retiring. And the best Dem pickup chance, perhaps to reverse that so the GOP doesn't gain a net gain of at least 1, is Texas. But that's still a likely GOP win. So the fact is, if Donald Trump wins this election, the race for the Senate, for all intents and purposes in my mind, is over.
One of the things I have heard from Democrats running for Congress is, okay, if President Biden's not doing well, what we'll say is it makes it all that much more important to elect a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate. Maybe they can gain support that way. But does it work like that, split tickets anymore?
It really doesn't. Let's go back since 2000. Same party won presidency and Congress. Yes, 5 times. No was just 1 time in 2012, the House that year. But the House popular vote that year actually went Democratic, even though Republicans maintained control of the House. So the fact is 5 out of 6 times, that's not good math. And let's just take a look at the Senate here. Senate and presidential races in 2016 and 2020. States that voted the same way in both, 68. States that voted for a different party, just 1. That was Maine back in 2020. The fact is, straight ticket voting is the way of the land these days. The idea that Democrats down ballot could somehow outrun Joe Biden to such a great extent to win control in the House or maintain control in the Senate, that seems to me to be an unlikely proposition.
That is a pretty stark number.
Yeah,
right?
those are pretty clear numbers, John.
Harriet, thank you very much.
I just want to point out where the polls are now, where they were at this point back in 2020, and Joe Biden's worst position in the polls back in 2020. Right now, Donald Trump leads in an aggregate of national polls by about 3 percentage points. If you go back 4 years ago at this point, Joe Biden was ahead by 9 points. This right now don't look anything like what we saw 4 years ago at this point. I then decided to take it a step further. What was Biden's worst 2020 polling position? He was ahead by 4 points, which basically matched what he ended up beating Donald Trump by in the national popular vote. So this 3-point advantage for Donald Trump is Donald Trump's best position versus Joe Biden, whether you include the polls this year or you include the polls last cycle. The idea that the polls underestimated Joe Biden last time around, simply put, does not hold any water, Mr. Berman.
Not in the general election, sir. Certainly. What about in terms of being underestimated in the Trump era in general?
Yeah. So I decided to expand upon our search. Who outperformed their July national polls? This is major elections during the Trump era. We can start in
I'm sorry, I had the mic muted. What I was saying earlier is that I don't see any good news at all for the Biden campaign. Nothing. Economically, nothing. Housing, nothing. Groceries, nothing. Nothing is pointing up for the Biden campaign. So they're stuck with him. They're absolutely stuck with him. And I don't know if the mic was off, but at the same time, what happened with Harris, I think they've looked at her and said she's not going to be a viable candidate either, which makes it even more of a problem because there's no place for them to turn, and they can't run on Biden's record. Nobody believes what they say about Biden's record, as evidenced by these polls. So let me finish and continue with this guy. Sorry about that. I'm trying to save my voice and not cough in the microphone.
the midterms, right? Take a look here. This is a 2022 midterm. Wow. This is a generic congressional ballot. In fact, Republicans were underestimated by a point. They outperformed their July polls and the actual result by a percentage point. You go back to 2018, Democrats did outperform their polls, but just by a point. Basically, the polls were right on at this particular point in the midterm elections. We talk about the presidential race. Last time around, Donald Trump actually did better in the results than his July polls by 5 points. You go back to 2016, you see something very similar. That is, the July polls actually underestimated Donald Trump. He outperformed his July polls. So the idea in the Trump era that the polls have underestimated Democrats, whether it be in a Joe Biden matchup, whether it be a matchup against Hillary Clinton, whether it be in the midterms, at least in the national polling that right now shows Donald Trump in his strongest position, simply put, is not true. If anything, the polls have underestimated Republicans during the Trump era, especially in the presidential races in 2016 and in 2020.
Well, on that front, I mean, how unusual is it for a Republican to be ahead by this much right now?
Yeah. So let's go all the way back. Who led in early July polls? Well, right now, Donald Trump is ahead. Go back in 2020, a Democrat, Biden. 2016, Hillary Clinton, a Democrat. 2008, 2012, a Democrat. Even in 2004, where George W. Bush ended up winning, John Kerry was actually ahead in the polls at this point. You have to go all the way back to 2000, to George W. Bush being ahead in the early July polls. Wow. You have to go all the way back to the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century, to find a Republican ahead at this point. 24 years. At this particular point, the idea that a Democrat is ahead, there are voters in the electorate who are dealing with a poll position they have never seen before, and that is a Republican lead.
So he's talking about the young voters at this point. 24 years has passed since they've seen a Republican leading at this point. 24 years. It's like foreign territory to them.
And the national popular vote, at least according to the polls.
A very unusual situation. One thing I just will point out, Biden may be talking about the primaries in 2020, where he did not do well in Iowa and New Hampshire, and then he ended up with the nomination. But that's a different animal. That is a vastly different animal than any kind of a general.
Like I said, there is no good news on the horizon for Biden and the Democrats. Nothing. There's nothing there.
Election setting.
Correct. In fact, if you were to look back at the 2020 national Democratic primary polls, they mostly had Biden ahead, except for that little small portion, right, when he lost Iowa and then lost to New Hampshire and then lost to Nevada. But overall, those primary polls had him ahead, and then he won. And certainly when it came to the general election, the polls always had Joe Biden. There wasn't a single poll that met CNN standards for publication that ever had Donald Trump ahead in 2020. And now you have a slew of them. And the average, of course, definitely has Donald.
Not a single poll had Donald Trump ahead in 2020 because they all knew what was coming. I can't say what was coming. You know what happened. You know exactly what happened. The media knew what was about to happen. So they had to put those polls out to substantiate what was about to happen.
Trump ahead. History ain't what he says it is on this front. Harriet, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
appreciate it. Kate?
But he's the president.
All right, so I'm checking the feed to see if he's on stage yet. He is not on stage. Obviously, I would have cut right through. Sorry about the microphone thing, but like I said, I'm trying to get through this with my voice. So this last piece, before we go to the rally, this was on CNN this morning. And Jonah Goldberg is not really the biggest Trump fan, not a Trump fan at all. But he has to school, I think her name is Bedingfield, and she used to be one of Biden's press people, a communications director. I think she was Jen Psaki's boss. Listen to this quick exchange.
United States right now, so he got back
barely
up, became
and
president of the United
president
States.
for the last 12
yeah,
barely.
What does that mean?
I don't think he's up to the job.
I think
I'm questioning his fitness right now to serve as president.
If you're saying barely president, you're suggesting that he's not capable of doing the things that we've seen him accomplish in these
last 3.5 years.
See, that's what the problem is. As you watch this thing unfold, the Democrats are going to keep trying to talk about his record, what he did the last 3.5 years. And Jonah Goldberg, in this single piece right here, explains what the problem is with Dementia Joe. Once he got exposed last Thursday, nothing else matters. At this point, everybody knows he doesn't have his faculties about him, that he's not ready to go the next 4 years. Forget what he's done the previous 3. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. You can't run on your record because the only record that you have right now is that of a dementia or Parkinson's patient. That's it. You can't run on something that happened before everybody knew. We all know. I know you guys all watching this knew. But now the media is trying to say, yeah, but his record. Crap with his record. There's only one thing that matters with Joe right now. He's going to have to prove himself on a downward slide. It ain't going to happen. This woman is completely shocked by what he says here.
Nothing to me. Nothing to me. And I think it's a crazy argument. You know, in financial markets, financial firms are required by law to say past performance is not predictive of future results.
And she knows it's true. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Forget what he's done. You have to concentrate that you guys have a dementia patient running for president and nothing else he's done matters.
That same principle applies to politics. If you watch that George Stephanopoulos interview and were reassured that he's up to the job, then I think you're kind of in a bubble because that was not reassuring. And when he says...
She's got nothing to say here. You can look at her face and go, I wasn't ready for this argument because there is no response. There is no rebuttal to that.
And when Democrats say this election is about democracy and the future of the country, and then he says, well, if I lose, I gave it my best shot. Who cares? That is a terrible answer. He was clearly prepped, and he still gave a terrible answer.
Saying the last 3 years mean nothing to you when you have a president who has gotten more done in a bipartisan way than anybody thought was possible, has gotten meaningful.
So give him a cookie. Go ahead and buy him some chocolate ice cream. Put a star on a refrigerator. Yes, what he did doesn't matter right now. The election is not a reward. It's not a grading and saying, listen, you did well, even though we know you didn't. You did well, so we're just going to we're going to anoint you president again. And that you can just see the microcosm right there. Jonah, who doesn't really like Trump, understands right now there's only one measure. There's one single measure about Joe Biden. And all she can go back to is, let's go back 3 years and see all the stuff he's done. He's been a good boy. And we gave him ice cream. How can we stop now?
Gun legislation done, has gotten an infrastructure bill done.
If he had a heart attack, you wouldn't say, well, look what he did the last 3.5 years.
That's like saying it doesn't matter who's president because it doesn't matter what happens when this person's in office. That's saying that only...
No, it doesn't matter. She can't grasp that. When I saw this, I realized that was the problem with the Democrat Party. Their only answer is to say what he's done the last 3.5 years. To them, they think it's great, but let's just go where they are. All right, the guy did good. He did well for 3.5 years. Fine. Now he's in a coma, basically. And you're saying because he did well in the last 3.5 years, you have to keep him going because it's a reward. It's not, he's not going to last another 4. He's not going to last another 1 year. So what's your argument? He's not going to be able to do any of the stuff he did in the past 3.5 years.
Campaign is the only thing that matters? I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. Campaigns are about the future. And
the lady over there goes, campaigns are about the future. Yes. Right now you're campaigning on what you're going to do next. How you're going to run the country coming up. And we all know at this point, that is the focus. They don't want you to look at that. Oh, he's done great. He deserves another term. He's earned another term. No, That earning went out the window last Thursday.
Fine. I'm just saying the last 3.5 years don't matter at all.
It don't matter at all about whether or not he can do the job for the next 4 months or next 4.5 years. No, do you honestly think he can serve 4.5 more years?
I do.
There's the lie. She is so entrenched, so in the camp, so brainwashed that she wants everybody to ignore what they've seen and think that this guy could survive. Never mind survive, run the country for another 4 years. The same guy who has to go Betty by 8 o'clock, can't do anything. It's amazing.
I think that's lunatic. I really do. I think it's lunatic. Do you think he can actually serve for 4.5 more years?
You are entitled to your opinion.
But see, it's not an opinion, sweetie. It's not about that. To me, that said everything about the campaign. That said to me everything about where we are at this point. The Democrats cannot face the music. They cannot realize that this guy, never mind like Jonah said, I don't think he's going to be able to work 4 more months. And you're saying he's going to work 4 more years. It's insane. And all they can fall back on is protect mode. All the different congressmen that you saw walking through, Joe's our guy, Joe's our guy. Are you all insane? Seriously. Do you owe Joe money? Are you afraid? Are you involved in a grift? How can you look at that when you wouldn't want this guy driving your Uber?